morning. I'm Ingrid Wood, Columbia's town historian, and it's my honor to offer a few Veterans Day remarks to you this year. Over a century ago, Armistice Day was declared in 1919 by President Woodrow Wilson to mark the end of World War I hostilities 7 months earlier on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, November 1918. But in 1954, after World War II, President Eisenhower, on the recommendation of Congress and many veterans groups, declared November 11th as the Day of Honor for American veterans of all wars, and so issued the very first Veterans Day proclamation on October 8, 1954, declaring Veterans Day a national day of remembrance. Among us today are Americans who have served in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and Reserves during times of peace and times of war. World War II, the Cold War, Korea, Vietnam, the Persian Gulf War, the global war on terrorism fought in Iraq, Afghanistan, and countries such as Somalia. We pay our respects to all of you. We owe you a debt of gratitude. We are ever grateful for your service, and we are grateful for your sacrifice. Our veterans are our heroes. What you trained and fought for, believed in, and upheld for the next generation to value has not changed. Our aspirations, declared in this nation's founding documents, remain unwavering, all thanks to you. You affirm, protect, reassure, and reaffirm our fundamental beliefs in a just and moral system of laws and civil bonds with each other, who we are and aspire to be as a nation, codified in our Constitution's Bill of Rights and our daily covenants with each other, is what our servicemen and women and veterans protect. Our veterans are our heroes, because more than anything else, you remind us every day of the aspirations and obligations of a free society. Our veterans remind us in a tangible way that freedom is not free. Though rooted in moral and just ideals, the right to pursue liberty, happiness, and one's dream remains ever fragile despite our best covenants, just system of laws and institutions. Our veterans remind us of their selfless sacrifice and courage to preserve what is best for all of us and our country, not just today, but every day. So from the depths of our hearts and with the gratitude of our families, we thank you, our veterans, for your valiant service, your sacrifice and courage, and your enduring belief in our nation today and forever. God bless you, and God bless our country, the United States of America, and a happy Veterans Day to all.
Happy Veterans Day. My name is Private First Class Ethan Harrington. I'm 21 years old. I'm from Columbia, Connecticut. I'm currently stationed at Fort Eustis, Virginia. I'm a watercraft operator in the 7th Transportation Brigade, 11th Battalion, 331st Transportation Company Expeditionary. I was just asked to answer a couple questions. The first one being what made me join the military. And honestly, the answer is short and sweet. I love my country. I wanted to serve it. I wanted to better myself, and I wanted to travel the world. And I've definitely gotten to do all of those things in the year and a half that I've been in. I just got home from deployment a couple months ago from the Middle East, which was a very interesting experience. I got to work with some amazing equipment and work with even better people. This upcoming summer in May, I'll be spending a month in Tokyo, Japan, and then traveling to destination unknown in Australia for a few months. So I'm very excited for that. Should definitely be interesting. Another question I was asked to answer was what Veterans Day means to me. And to me, Veterans Day means everything. It means my family, sacrifice, my ancestors, my grandfathers, my cousins, my sister, and I thank all of them for their service. And a lot of people don't understand or recognize the sacrifice that military members and especially their families go through. Separation is definitely difficult. So this Veterans Day, I just recommend you reach out and to a veteran in our community or another community, and just thank them for their service, and let them know that it's not going unrecognized, or that it didn't go unrecognized. But I hope you all enjoy your day. I hope you all have a warm and healthy winter, and thank you for your time.
Sounds good. My name is Ivars Petersons, and I've been in Columbia now for since '75, I believe. Yeah. So I was in the Army for 3 years, from 1964 till, and I was an artillery officer, and I did put in 1 year in Vietnam, between May of May of 66 and May of 67. So, and I was in an outfit called the ARA, which was the 2nd Battalion, 20th Artillery Regiment, and they were attached to the 1st Air Cav, and that was their mission from 1963 to 1971, and I was there in 66 or 67. And of course, our base of operations was the Central Highlands area, okay, in the middle of Vietnam. The base camp was a place called An Khê. Not many people know that place, but they might have heard of Pleiku, which is just a little bit to the west of there.
Okay. So, how'd you end up going into the Army?
Well, I'll tell you. Okay, when I went to Yukon, at that time, because it was a land grant college, ROTC was mandatory for the first 2 years. So I started in ROTC, Yukon. I kind of liked it. I did pretty well. And then after the 2 years, you had an option to either get out or stay for the 4 years. And at that time, I said, gee, I kind of like that. I'll just stay. And the other thing was, at that time, the Army paid us a little monthly allowance to stay in ROTC. Mm-hmm. And so I was there, I enjoyed it pretty well. I was selected as one of the few cadets to go into pilot training. So I flew out of Wyndham aircraft put in my 35 hours. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of registered had some aviation experience. So then when I went into the service in October after graduation, I was assigned to air defense artillery for a while, but then as the Vietnam thing built up, they said, hey, we see that you've had some pilot experience, would you like to consider a rotary aircraft? And I said, sure. I never liked the fixed wing too much because I had problem with motion sickness. Anyway, and that was it. So then I went through helicopter school, and then after I finished that, I was assigned to this ARA, which was basically artillery unit, but we flew rocket ships. And that was our thing. We were in support of ground operations whenever there was some kind of problem on the ground.
Yeah.
So,
sort of like in We Were Soldiers.
Yeah.
Air Cav.
Right. Yeah, I just came in right after the famous Aya Drang thing, but we went, various places. Yeah. And it was most time was spent out in the field. These LZs, what they call landing zones.
Drop them in.
Yeah, and just to stay there and secure a perimeter, and then wait for a call for a fire mission.
So, so when you were in the service, were you married or?
No, I wasn't. I was engaged, I guess.
Okay.
While I was in the service, I met my fiancée on an R&R in Hong Kong, and that's when we got engaged and made plans. So after I got out of the service, we got married almost right away. So,
how did she feel about you being in the service?
well, she didn't mind, I guess. In fact, she was a volunteer herself, not in the service, but she worked for the Department of the Army as a recreation specialist, and she ran a camp in Korea for service members. I thought, they bingo, things like that.
Absolutely.
And actually, on my way to Vietnam, I also stopped by, took a detour and I did wind up in Korea for a couple of days.
Not good for you.
Yeah, but, so, yeah.
Yeah, very good. So tell me about, you know, I talked to my uncle, he did 2 tours in Vietnam out in the, you know, infantry and, what do you remember about what's, you know, your memories about Vietnam and serving there? Good, bad?
Well, it was one of these things. You went in there, and I saw the great military might that we had, and I knew we were just fighting people, you know, rifles or limited weaponry in the jungles. I said, and we had aircraft, we had bombers. I said to myself, and I wrote back a letter. This was before there was no Skype or internet phone. The only communication was letters. So in my first letters, I said, "Oh, I'll be back pretty soon because I think this will be over in a couple of months at the least." But then as things dragged on, it became kind of, well, you know, in a way discouraging. But again, I was just doing my thing, you know, a lot of people were keeping short-timers lists. It did seem to me like to be a very long year, and you know, it's there was a lot of risk involved. I was very fortunate that nothing really bad happened to me, but so many of the people I knew did not make it because, you know, we were flying under all kinds of conditions, you know, 7 days a week, at night, in rain and fog. There was no GPS or ground control or towers or anything like that. You had somebody on the ground who was kind of upset about things and tried to guide you in. So it was about 800 hours of flight time,
Wow.
and 200 of it was night. So that's the thing that bothered me the most. But basically, I went along with the program. And the thing that, I guess, as a veteran, that kind of bothered me a little bit was when we came back, the attitude towards veterans was not very good.
Yeah.
We're not very popular guys. So, I said, that's okay, fine, I got a job, and we got married and everything else. And one of the things that really now I think is so great is that the American public has come forth to really support the veterans and honoring them. You know, every saying's thank you for your service, you know, stores giving you a discount sometimes, and just the respect.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm so thankful for, is that there's been, you know, such a change in attitude towards veterans. And I guess even, you know, the VA services have been improved recently.
Yes.
So, you know, this is it. I was very glad to serve. I did not, to be honest with you, I only stayed 3 years in the service because I just got married, and they asked me, I asked what would be my next tour if I stayed in, and they said, well, you're going right back. And because of various close calls, I decided I didn't want to tempt fate, and I was just married. I didn't want to, you know, leave a widow. For a long time, people who served, veterans, did not really talk too much about their experiences.
Right.
But now with a different attitude, myself even, you know, first 10, 20 years, I never talked about, you know, my service or, you know, that was in Vietnam or anything because, no, I don't think anybody wanted to hear about it for one thing. But now I'm, you know, people ask me things and I'm a lot more willing to, you know, talk about things like that.
Yeah. So, okay, people who probably never served they have some questions here, so.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask some questions. There's a couple of them that I struck out because, you know, I just think that if you wanna talk about things. So you told us, you know, your job assignment and stuff like that, so that's good. You know, you talked about, you saw casualties and stuff.
Yes.
People around you, you know, brothers in arms and everything. And yeah, I mean, I never saw casualties, but I'll tell you, I was in during a time when, you know, the USS Cole got bombed over in Yemen.
Oh, yes,
And
yes,
it,
I remember
you know,
that.
sent shockwaves through the military and stuff, and, you know, you said there were some close calls and everything, so that's why you chose not to continue with your contract, you know.
Right, what happened was, you know, we were in radio communication with the ground, and almost every time we went out, we just didn't go out flying, you know, for the fun of it. We always had a fire mission to go. And one of the problems is the way the artillery, the rockets worked was they were fixed pods. So you could not aim the things, through a joystick or thing. You aimed your helicopter at the target, and you came in and you start, hitting some rounds of the rockets, and then you get some feedback. They said, okay, well, adjust it a little bit further or shorter, and then they say fire for effect, and then we dump our load of rockets. But by the time we finished on that run, we were almost eyeball to eyeball with people on the ground. Luckily for all the trees and camouflage and all that, the canopies, I think it made it tough for the people on the ground to hit you. But every now we come back with some bullet holes every now and then, and the people on the ground say, okay, be careful. They're firing at you. Almost of the time.
Yeah.
Because that's where we were. We're in that kind of situation. After I was just there 2 weeks, we were going on a night mission to illuminate the Cambodian border, and it was 1 o'clock. It was very dark, and we had some flares that we were going to drop to kind of on that river on the border to kind of let the enemy know that, hey, we're watching them, and we thought that was an infiltration route through Cambodia for the North Vietnamese. And we're almost there, and all of a sudden, I thought we got hit by a rocket or something. What actually happened was the engine froze, the turbine. And all of a sudden, all kinds of warning lights went on and everything else, and it's dark and everything else, and you don't know what you do. I'm temporarily frozen. Luckily for the more experienced pilot, he said, okay, collective down. Okay, you got to come down. We got to auto rotate. And we landed and turned on lights and this and that, came into like a burned out little crater. We landed there, but we had to stop the airspeed, flared it out. That gave us some lift, ran out of juice because we're heavy load. We had still rockets and everything else, and we came down straight, boom, like that, where everything just popped. Our rockets popped out, the windshield popped out, my helmet popped out through the windshield, and we had electrical fire, and we had a third person on the helicopter. It was the crew chief. He got ejected through the door, rolling down this kind of embankment. I didn't even see him for a while. So, and unfortunately, the pilot next to me, the captain, I was only a lieutenant at that time, he said, I can't move. And he said, and I said, okay, well, he says, we have to get out of here because we might have fire, we still might explode. We didn't know. And so I got him out of the helicopter and all that, and it took about 2 hours. Then we flew in two ship sections. So the other ship that was ahead of us said, oh, how come you dropped your flare? The crew chief, luckily, let the flare go. High magnesium, very high, what fried us. So we said, well, we're down, and all this stuff. So kind of make the story short, they got hold of the Air Force. Air Force came by and started dropping flares in the area. Medevac came in, hovered near where we were, and they got us out. But so then later, a couple days later, went to see the captain who couldn't move, and I found out later that he spent 6 months in Japan with back problem. And I was just so lucky. I just had some scrapes and
You must
chipped
have
it.
dropped pretty hard.
Yeah. So later on, they took that helicopter out in sections and all that, and I knew the guy who investigated, one of the investigating officers, pilot. He said, well, based on the estimate of the G-force, they said, we don't know how anybody, walked away from that.
Must have just compressed his spine.
Yeah, right. And I guess he was just a couple years older. I don't know. I know I felt it, but I mean, I just. So then, then they sewed up my tongue. I talking, when we were hitting.
When you bit your tongue?
Yeah, severed it. Because I was talking on the emergency radio to the other ship, and asking questions, and they were asking me questions, and so they took me to a field hospital there, and they sewed me up.
What about what would you tell the young kids out there today?
young men and women who are 16 or 17, and what would you tell them?
Well, I would say that the service is not a bad thing, and it gives you opportunities, and and I think it builds your character. And I think you learn skills, and I think it's a good thing to do, and the country needs that. So I keep on hoping that, the good young men and women decide to pursue the military, either just for a stint or for a career.
Yeah.
And
Why and that type of thing, and I just think the stories need to be told a little bit.
Yeah, well, I've been National Guard for 35 years.
Yeah, I know. So, were you active duty at all?
Mm, well, I was attached to the 15th Combat Engineers
Yep.
for a couple of weeks. And then I went to regular Army NCO school when they first started. And then our 2 weeks,
Yeah, stayed in the guard. And,
yeah.
yeah.
And
What age were you when you first joined?
I was in Maine, Holton, Maine, 57. My husband was the first sergeant,
Mm-hmm.
and he was in World War II and everything. And he decided that it would be good for me to join. And I was in school at the time.
High school?
High school.
Okay.
And I don't regret it. It was a good move,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I was with the 152nd Field Artillery, and I was with them for about 3 or 4 years.
So, what year did you first go in?
What's that?
What year did you first join?
Yeah, in 57.
So 57, after the Korean conflict.
Yeah.
When you did your 2 weeks and you're camping out and stuff like that, what was it like? I mean, you drilled and everything, because I did reserves myself
Yeah.
with the Navy. I did my weekly work and everything, and then I switched gears that Friday afternoon and went to camp or went for the weekend and stuff. And what was it like to go from work to put on that uniform to report Friday or Saturday morning for your weekend? I mean, how did it change?
Once I put that uniform on, I was strictly military.
Yeah,
And there was a lot of camaraderie.
yeah,
As I said, we had 105 howitzers towed, and we went to Camp Drum, and
Camp Drum, New York.
yep, and from Holton, it took a day and a half. We camped out in cow pasture. In the White Mountains or whatever, and the camaraderie is unbelievable.
No, believe me, I know it. I still keep in touch with guys who I went to my very first ship with over 40 years ago now. As a matter of fact, we were going to have our first reunion this year until the COVID hit, and I had, boy, guys, I can still remember you as yesterday, kids. We were young, 18, 19 years old, and still to this day, I mean, you talk about it, it's like brothers to me,
Yeah.
They fly in for my kids' weddings and for visits, and I go there and visit people, so believe me, I understand. Probably nothing that I've ever had camaraderie-wise anywhere else. So, any good places? You ever go any places that were like a lot different than home, or?
Oh yes, when I was with the 242, said we got attached, well, there was 4 of us got attached to the 15th Engineers. That's in Fort Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And we, that was some trip.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to go, I was the first sergeant at.
No problem.
So if you can just tell me your name and your branch of the service branch that you worked in, or you served in, and then we'll start on with the questions.
Daniel Arnini, United States Navy.
So we're obviously doing this to honor our veterans on Veterans Day, and I'll have a couple of questions for you.
Mhm.
On your service, but one thing that we've been asking everybody is, what does Veterans Day mean to you?
Veterans Day, recognizing veterans, which I think is a good thing. Because, I mean, one day out of the year doesn't seem like very much, but at least it's one day
Right.
that they do recognize veterans that have served. There's only like 3% of the population that has served.
Right.
Personally, I think it should be mandatory. I think everyone should serve at least 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think they would appreciate this country a lot more.
Right. Right.
So it recognizes veterans, which I think obviously they should.
Right.
And for the children too, for the kids, the kids learn more about the veterans
Sure.
that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, why did you join?
My father gave me some options when I got out of, I was still in high school. I turned 18 May 6, 1966. I joined the Navy May 7th, the day after, with my best friend. One thing, my father was in the Navy, World War II. My brother was in the Navy at that time. And I guess and he gave me an option. He said, you either get a job, you go to college, or you go into service. So I wasn't ready for college. I was not a good boy, I guess. So I needed the Navy. That's when I always wanted to join the Navy. Navy.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. Always wanted to join
Wow.
the Navy.
So it was almost a natural choice for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Without hesitation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So do you recall your first days in service?
Yes. The first night at boot camp. Yeah.
And how was that? How did-
Not good.
Not good?
Not good. I went to boot camp in Great Lakes, Michigan.
Oh,
And the first night we had 24 inches of snow and 18 below zero. And we're doing fire watchings. We're taking turns doing fire watches around the building. And it was cold. It was cold like that. And the next morning, we woke up and we found one of our guys dead on the bathroom floor. He committed suicide.
oh, that's awful.
Found him laying there. Not good.
No,
No.
that was your first day.
It's experience, one of the first experiences, yeah.
Jeez. Wow. Do you remember your instructors from boot camp and training?
Oh, yes, I remember the commander, yes, yes. Yeah, it was a little different in those days. They weren't afraid to hurt our feelings.
Right.
Yeah, they're still tough today, but not like they were when we were young.
Yeah,
I think. I can't be for sure, but he taught me a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, he prepared us for what we needed to be prepared
Right.
for us, I think, to this day, for his
Yeah.
patience with us. Yes,
Right,
yes,
right.
definitely. We're all kids, we're all 18 years old. Most
Sure.
of us were 18.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. And you certainly want someone to prepare you.
I needed it.
You
Me
did.
personally, yes, I needed it, yes. I needed the discipline, and definitely needed the discipline.
And so obviously it was probably your first time away from home for the most part. being in boot camp or?
Was it? Yes, I think it was,
Yeah.
for an extended period
Right.
of time, yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it sounds like it was quite an experience. How did you get through it?
As they say, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just kept your mouth shut, you didn't volunteer for anything, and did what you were told.
All right.
And you were fine. Yeah,
Good.
definitely, you're fine. Just follow instructions
Yep.
and show respect.
Right.
Yeah, and they had their way of making sure we did.
Sure.
Yes. Hmm.
And which wars did you serve in and where?
Vietnam, 68, 69.
And your unit.
I was in Airedale. I was attached to an air squadron out of Coronado, California, North Island, which is in Coronado, San Diego area.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined the Navy. My best friend and I joined the Navy as a buddy system. We were supposed to stay together. Well, the minute we got in boot camp, they split us up.
Oh no.
Yeah. It was this buddy system that you could stay with your friend. And I ended up being assigned in California. He goes to Guantanamo, Cuba. So
So there goes.
we were never together.
There goes your buddy.
There
right?
goes the buddy system. Yes.
Were you able to stay in touch with him or?
Oh, absolutely. We're still friends today. We see each other all. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, graduated high school together, everything.
Oh, that's great. Wow. Do you remember arriving and what it was like
Arriving.
in Vietnam?
Yes, I was on an aircraft carrier. So we were off the coast about 2 or 3 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
thinking it was so beautiful. And we had the battleship New Jersey next to us that came out of mothballs. She was assigned was our escort. And the Enterprise carrier was there.
Okay.
The firepower was amazing.
Right.
Yeah, amazing firepower.
Huh.
Yeah.
And what did you exactly do? What was your job?
I was aviation metalsmith, and what I did for 1 year, I painted the airplanes. I kept the airplanes fully complete paint jobs on the airplanes. I had a crew. I was in charge of the crew. And then when I was in Vietnam, I was a troubleshooter on the flight deck. That means we had flight operations shifts. Every 6 hours, we would have planes go up at least 6 at a time.
Wow.
And 24/7. And my job was to check the airplanes out, and before, there was 2 of us, and we were on the flight deck either at night or during the day. At night you couldn't see hand in front of you hardly. Very dangerous because it was all props.
Oh.
Ours were prop jobs. And our job was before, it was on the catapult, and before that plane could leave, we would check all the wheel wells and check for leaks. And we would say either this or this. If we said this, that plane could not leave the catapult. We saw a problem. And we were responsible for these pilots' lives. You know,
Right.
you want to make sure if there's a problem, you don't want that plane to take off.
Right.
That was my job. And I worked on the planes too.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
That's a huge responsibility.
Yes, we took it very seriously.
For a
Yeah.
young
Yeah,
person.
and it's amazing how I was only E4, one chevron at that time, and I'm overriding a commander officer in the Navy. If the
Right.
commander says go, I said
You
no,
said no.
and he can't go.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
can't go.
It's a tremendous amount of responsibility.
Yeah, you better make damn well sure you're right too. Yeah, we were right.
Yeah.
2 or 3 of them I went,
Yep.
and I was proven right both
Yeah.
times.
Well, that's good to be, those are good reasons.
Good
to be-
reasons.
be
And the
proven
commander
right.
officer, the commander was fine. He was
Yeah.
fine with it, yeah.
So how big of a
Ship.
ship that you?
Ours was a small carrier compared to the super carriers. The super carriers today are 1,200 feet long and wider,
Mhm.
and four elevators. We had 3 elevators. Our ship was only 995 feet long, It's the same, if you ever visit the Intrepid in New York,
Mm-hmm.
same carrier.
Oh,
They were
okay.
they were all Essex type carriers.
Oh, I see.
So it was almost it was our sister ship. Matter of fact, Intrepid was our sister ship. It
Okay.
was CVS 20. Mine was CVS 20 Bennington, named after the town of Bennington, Vermont. We had about 5,500 guys. I thank them.
So let me start
Always, I
right
say
over. Yeah,
that.
okay, that's it. So I'll keep it short and I'll let you ask the questions.
There you go. 8 decks, they would hit the 6th deck. The waves would be so, you never, you gotta experience to see it. I never, you would tie yourself to your bunk. But
Wow.
otherwise you would go off. But we're still lucky compared to the destroyers.
Right.
Yeah.
Ugh. So obviously you encountered some bad weather.
Very rough weather, yep. Snow in Japan. We actually shoveled snow off our flight deck when we were in Japan.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like you said, it was when you were in Vietnam, it was hot.
Oh, 24/7.
And no air conditioning. So
No,
you're,
no.
oof.
A lot of times I would sleep in the gun tubs where the guns were.
Oh,
I would go
really?
outside, yeah, sleep out in the gun tubs, yeah, definitely,
At least it's a little bit cooler.
definitely. No,
Wow.
definitely. You couldn't sleep. Very
Not
difficult
in
to
that-
sleep, no,
right.
very difficult.
Did the ship ever come in to shore at any time?
When you're off Vietnam, no, we were like 60 days off before we would have hit a port.
Oh, okay.
The first time we went to Vietnam, we went from Hawaii to Vietnam, then from Vietnam, we went to Hong Kong.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. Huh. One of the other gentlemen that was we interviewed, he talked about and some entertainers that came.
Yes,
were
we
you
had
able
Bing
to-
Crosby.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah.
How was that?
That was
Bing
great. It
Crosby.
was great. Well, he did so much for the service people.
Right,
That guy's a national hero too.
Right.
He did so much for us.
right.
Yeah, it was great.
So that must have been
And his son came too.
oh, really?
Yeah, his son came too.
Oh. And they always had the whole group of singers and
Yeah.
entertainers that would come to them too.
Yeah, we didn't get Bob Hope. We got Crosby.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's okay. We were fine. We were fine with that.
Do you recall any particular humorous or unusual events when you were?
Yes, when we were in Sydney, Australia, they decided to have a dance on board our ship. And it must have been at least 5,000 women showed up. So we were happy. At least 5,000. It was absolutely amazing. And it was on the hangar bay and the flight deck. And you couldn't buy a beer in Australia. They would not let you.
Oh, really?
They love Americans. They love the Americans. And they would pay for our beer and bring us home to their families. And they love the Americans. Always in World War II, you know your history.
Right.
We saved them from the
Right.
Japanese. So, yeah, they never forgot it.
Yeah.
And they would be, we had an Australian destroyer shadow our ship. And we would have to wear long jeans, the bell-bottom jeans, and shirts. These guys would be running around with full beards, shorts, and T-shirts, you know? I said, we want to be like, and they were whenever you hit a port, you saw Australian sailors there,
You knew.
you hung out. Yep,
Right.
you hung out. It was
Oh, wow.
great.
What a
They,
great
they
experience.
love Americans.
Really?
Yep, I still think they do too. They still love America,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
They should. You know, they paid back their war debt and
Right.
wonderful people. Wonderful.
What a great experience. Do you recall after the day your service ended?
Yes, yes. I didn't get discharged when I got out because I got out in San Diego and I got married to a California girl. Her father was a retired Navy guy. And came back here and I joined the active reserve, Navy active reserve.
Okay.
I did it for 3 years, so I got a total of 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Worked on planes in South Weymouth, Mass,
Oh.
P3s. Biggest mistake I ever did was get out.
Really?
Yeah, and when I was in, after 23 months, I made E5, which was unheard of because I didn't have A school, but I got waivers. They offered me officer's candidate school,
Mm-hmm.
and I said no. And I was gonna go to New London for officer candidate school, and they gave me the choice, and I didn't want it. I was 20 years old. I
What do you know?
yeah, I didn't want to do it. That's the biggest mistake I made. You know, I should have done that and stayed in it. If I had to do it all, this is all hindsight, you know, when you're
Oh,
20
I
years
know.
old,
Right.
what do you know? You just want to drink beer and chase women. I mean, you know,
Right.
seriously.
Yeah, I-
And yeah, I consider that my biggest mistake.
Yeah. So after the service, what did you do as?
I went back and worked for the town of West Hartford in the street department, driving a
Okay.
dump truck.
Okay.
They held the job for me.
Oh, they did?
They said, when you get out of the Navy, you want to come back and work? You come back and work, and they did.
Excellent.
And I would do the Navy Reserves once a month for a week, 1 weekend a month, and
Mhm.
2 weeks a year. I did that for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I got remarried, my wife had a baby, and I didn't like leaving her on weekends.
Right,
So I got out.
yeah,
Not a smart move. No, I should have stayed in.
yeah.
You know.
Well, hindsight's 20.
It's all, you're a kid, you know?
Yeah,
What do I know now at 72 is a lot different than what I knew at 20 years old.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you talking about my father being proud. I was honored being Sailor of the Month out of 5,500 guys on the ship.
Oh, wow.
So my father got the letter. The commanding officer said, your son's been selected as the Sailor of the Month out of 5,500 guys.
Yeah.
And my father went all his buddies, everyone in town, showed everyone the letter. Oh yeah, kept an honor.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
He was proud.
Yeah,
You asked me what made him proud.
yeah.
That made him proud. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. I bet he liked to show that off.
Oh yes, he did. Yeah. Till the day he died, he always
Oh,
talked to
really?
me about that.
Oh. So how do you get to be Sailor of the Month?
You get nominated
Ah.
by your commanding officer,
Mhm.
and my commanding officer on my squadron nominated me and gave them the reason why they should select me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got selected.
excellent.
That's cool.
That is
Yeah.
cool.
I got a savings bond and a weekend liberty, things like a couple of things, but
Yeah.
that's all right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Good.
It's good to show your prospective employer.
Right, right.
Yeah.
yes. Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
I think finally, people have appreciated the military, especially Vietnam.
Mm,
I mean, I was spit on, called baby killer. I mean, we all went through all that crap.
right.
And now people are trying to make amends for that. We never had a parade, but we just had a ceremony in Willimantic, Vietnam commemoration ceremony.
Mhm.
And it was all for Vietnam veterans and any other military people they wanted to come
Right.
to celebrate, to recognize us.
Proud Air Force veteran, served from 1981 to 1985.
Tim, first of all, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
Veterans Day is taking on a little bit different tone this year. Usually we get together and, we have a nice ceremony and everything, but the COVID thing, I'm actually pretty tired of it. And not allowing people to get together and really share. So what I wanted to do is just kind of throw out there a little bit about different veterans who served, ask some different questions, and we've had Vietnam vets, Korean vets, we've had local, people that were in the Guard for their entire time, we have a young man who's serving now, sent me a video from down in,
Oh, that's
in
great.
Virginia, so.
Great.
But everybody brings some of the same things,
Mm-hmm.
but uniqueness on what they do, what they get out of it.
Yep.
And I think there's probably, if I asked, there's probably 3 or 4 questions you ask, you get the same answer. We'll kind of, I'll tell you what they are in the end, I guess. But so right out of high school.
Yep, I joined. Matter of fact, I enlisted my first day of my senior year in high school. My family was poor, I'll say it, and so the opportunity to go to college was bleak, and so I said I'm going to get my training while serving this great country.
Yep. Delayed entry program. Then.
Delayed entry program went in July of 1981. Not sure why I would want to go to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas in July. Most people don't because it's 110 degrees in the barracks. But that's when I went down and did my training.
Yeah.
Had 2 deployments while I was there. One was a plan, what we called it a show of strength, called Bright Star in 1983.
I went to Bright Star.
Yep, so
In Egypt.
Yep, Egypt. So 1983, I was deployed to Bright Star, at that time, the largest non-combat organized show of strength, so to say, when Muammar Gaddafi was taking reign in Libya and was thinking of attacking Egypt. Then, one morning in 1984, I received a Sunday morning phone call. And so I'd already been to Egypt once. I got a call one Sunday morning, and I'm there with Teddy, my wife, and got the phone call, and they said, come in, we're going to do a recall. We call them recall. You go in and bring your bags in and go through all the stuff and check your records. And they go, and I get there and I look around the room and I go, who are you people? And they go, Airman, this is no recall. You're leaving. I'm leaving. They go, we're on a plane. We're going. You're being deployed, combat mission. And I called Teddy on Sunday morning, and she was panicked. She found out later that there was 2 airplanes set up, and one had an electrician, carpenter, plumber, HVAC tech guy in one plane, and in the other. And she found out about this while I was away, and it was because in case one plane got shot down, she was told. So we went back over when Muammar Gaddafi was actually on the border to attack Egypt, and we went over to support the AWACS planes, the supply planes. So it was nerve-wracking for her, excited like no tomorrow as a young airman to get to go into that kind of a mission and set up and support the troops.
Yeah. And people don't realize that. I guess they do. We're young and we're ready to go. And I remember, listen, I started in 1978. I was on my ship in 79, deployed 17 days later over to, the Pacific Rim and in the Indian Ocean and everything. And that's when kind of things started, clashing a little bit over there. But was over there again in 81 and 82. And, when things were happening and stuff. And it's like, okay, things are getting pretty serious over here. Of course, you had the Russians who were in Afghanistan at that time. I think just breaking into there, and plus, the Cold War was still in full effect and stuff. So yeah, we were ready. I mean, young and stupid and ready, and that's what we trained for.
Yeah.
But in saying that, it's the home front that probably suffers a lot more.
I think so, because she had no idea. She had no idea, my wife she had no idea what she was going to get a letter, stating, or a phone call, or somebody walking up to the door and saying, because we're going into combat. And the warning was essentially a Sunday morning phone call, pack the bags. They allowed me to go restructure my packing because they knew I was going to a different climate than it was in Nebraska in February. It's brutally cold. And so they said, Airman, you have 1 hour, which is unheard of to allow me to leave.
Yeah,
because then,
people talk.
Yeah, and so when I went back to the house, I said, I can't say where I'm going. I have a good guess because I've been there before, but I don't know for sure. I'll know when we get on the plane. They're going to give us our orders.
And no time frame.
No, we left. We got on a plane and gone.
What I'm saying is, when she said, well, when are you going to be back?
No time frame.
No time frame.
There was no time frame at all, and And we didn't know when we were gonna be leaving either. Once we set up the camp, you know, we're living in the middle of the deserts on cots, you set the tents up, and your personal tent is the last one to get set up. You set up, at that time, we were setting up the comm tent, which is the communications tent, which is enormous. And that's number one. You're sleeping on the sand, airman, until you get these tents set
Yeah,
up.
not unheard of.
Right.
Because I was with my last full-time unit and stuff, not full-time, but reserves anyway, every time we went somewhere, we had a whole self-sustaining camp to set up. You know, you had your communications and you had your operations tent. And then you had things like your chow hall. You had to have a tent for chow hall, and you had to have the chuck wagon, you know, set up and everything. And then you had to have, you know, your plant, your electrical plant, your
Yep.
sewer plant, all that stuff. And then, of course, you're there, and it's pitch dark. It's dark 30.
Right.
And you go, okay, let's get some rack time before rack.
Right,
Rack.
right.
You know, pick a stand.
Pick a spot on the ground and and watch out for scorpions in our area, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I went to the desert, you know, thankfully, when I went over there, I mean, I did a lot of different places around the States and everything. We were in the field a lot. But I get it, man. And
Yeah.
it's different for everybody, but it's
Right.
kind of basically the same. It's like operation first.
Right.
You know, your comforts last.
Yep, oh yeah, you were last, yep.
So, okay. But fortunately or unfortunately, or did you see hear any gunshots? No, they never really attacked, just kind of rattled the sabers and mounted the border.
Well, the big thing that took place, I think, was that when we came in, when the United States came in support of Egypt, that show of strength, that ability to support our allies, stop the aggression by Libya,
Yeah.
and, you know, save thousands of lives just by showing strength.
Yeah.
Not shooting one rifle off or anything else, so.
And it's amazing that one day that is desert, and within 48 hours, it's basically a city.
Yes,
It's a
tent city, we sent up hundreds of tents, flight line repair, so they had a flight line, we had to do flight line repair, so you're dropping down flight line panels.
Yeah.
I mean, it's full on the ability to maneuver and create a city. You know, full plans, we had full plans, roll them out, run it, like you said, power plant, the men's journal was a pile of rocks, just you made do. And men and women used the same facilities. It was, you're serving in combat.
Yep.
You do what, your personal affairs are relatively set aside for the good of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so how long were you over there at that time?
So the second time was only 21 days.
Okay.
We knocked it out in 21 days. The aggression stopped, and we were able to come back and and pay all the overdue bills because the bills were all due when I was away. So it happens, it's part of the life. So came back and rearranged my life. But it was, huge hugs when you get back home. But it was, whether it's 2 days or 200 days,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's the same time that your family misses you and wants you back,
Sure.
so.
Okay. So this was during the, every period has its period and stuff, but this is a very volatile time in the Middle East. Wouldn't they be?
Right,
Right.
right.
The Americans, God bless them and stuff. So Veterans Day, I usually see on Veterans Day, it's going to be a little bit different this year, but
No.
what is Veterans Day? Deep down, what does it mean?
So I am one that was so blessed to get to serve. I believe that. I was blessed to serve this country, and I have never really been one that thought of myself when I thought of Veterans Day. I really thought about those that were primarily Vietnam veterans, to be honest with you, and the thanks that they did not receive until just, years ago. And I think that's what I think more about when I think of veterans, is me thanking them, because although I served, and I was grateful to serve. As we mentioned, I grew up part of that. I had so much that happened to me positively in those 4 years that I served. My training, I met my spouse, so much good stuff. But I think about those that were entrenched, that were essentially forgotten,
Yeah.
to be honest. And I thank them. And every opportunity I get to do, either talk about Korean veterans or talk about, obviously, our beloved World War II veterans, to our beloved Vietnam veterans that were not so beloved. And so when I get out there and I think about them, and now the new age, right, the struggles of the new veterans now that are coming back, and the post-traumatic stress disorder that we didn't identify in earlier Vietnam and Korea, that obviously those took place. We just didn't identify them. Now we see them, and now we're trying to treat that. But the loss of life after service is staggering. So the more that I can do, and the more I can support veterans, whether it's going out and just thanking them individually, or as I do, I put my money where my mouth is. I run a road race along with some others that to date we have given $36,000 out to veteran services organizations, and the road race we just ran, we just wrote checks for $11,500 just from this last road race to help service supporters for veterans, specific direct services for veterans. So, I continue to try to do what I can to thank the veterans, and will do that for as long as I possibly can.